The atomic bomb's story began not as a weapon of war, but as a quest for knowledge. It was fueled by scientific curiosity, a drive to understand the fundamental building blocks of the universe. Brilliant minds delved into complex equations and groundbreaking theories that unlocked the atom's hidden power, a force previously unimaginable. They sought to unravel the mysteries of nuclear physics, unaware of the profound implications that their discoveries would soon unleash upon the world. That power, first unleashed on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945, in a blinding flash of unimaginable energy, changed the world forever, ushering in the nuclear age and casting a long shadow over humanity. The devastation was unprecedented, a stark reminder of the destructive potential that lay dormant within the atom. Cities erased in an instant, shadows burned into stone, ghostly silhouettes of lives extinguished. Humanity, confronted by its own capacity for annihilation, forced to grapple with the terrifying consequences of its scientific advancements. The world would never be the same. After World War II, the globe split into two rival blocs, ideological adversaries locked in a tense standoff. The US, champion of capitalism, and the Soviet Union, the bastion of communism, stood as opposing superpowers. The Cold War was born, a period of geopolitical tension and proxy conflicts with nuclear weapons at its core, the ultimate deterrent and the ultimate threat. The Soviets tested their own bomb in 1949, shattering the American nuclear monopoly, sparking an arms race, a relentless competition to build ever more powerful and destructive weapons, and the doctrine of mutually assured destruction, MAD, a grim calculus of annihilation. The logic was chilling, a precarious balance of terror that held the world hostage. Any nuclear attack would guarantee total destruction for both sides, a suicidal pact that no one dared to break. Fear seeped into daily life, permeating the culture and shaping the anxieties of a generation. Duck and cover drills became commonplace in schools, a futile attempt to prepare for the unimaginable. Backyard fallout shelters sprung up across the landscape, symbols of both fear and resilience. The mushroom cloud looming over society, a constant reminder of the fragility of peace. The world had built a doomsday machine, a complex and terrifying system of destruction, and now had to live with it, under the constant threat of nuclear annihilation. Hoping no one would ever press the button, the ultimate act of self-destruction. The paradox, a cruel irony at the heart of the nuclear age. These weapons were meant to keep peace, to deter aggression through the threat of retaliation, but their existence made the world more dangerous, increasing the risk of accidental or intentional use. A single mistake or miscalculation could trigger catastrophe, unleashing a chain reaction of destruction. The Cold War story is one of close calls, moments when the world teetered on the brink of nuclear war. Near misses, instances where faulty technology or human error threatened to unleash Armageddon, and the hope that fragile systems would hold, just one more time preventing the unthinkable from happening. October 1962. A month etched in history, a period of intense global anxiety. The world teetered on the brink of nuclear war, a conflict that threatened to engulf the entire planet. It all began with photographs from a U-2 spy plane, high above the Earth, silently capturing images that would shake the foundations of international relations. These weren't just ordinary pictures. They were evidence of a clandestine operation, a dangerous game being played in the shadows. The images revealed Soviet nuclear missiles in Cuba, a shocking discovery that instantly transformed the geopolitical landscape. The presence of these weapons so close to American shores was an unacceptable provocation, a direct challenge to U.S. security. Cuba, a small island nation, suddenly became the epicenter of a global crisis, sitting just 90 miles from Florida. This proximity meant that major American cities were now within striking distance of Soviet nuclear weapons, a terrifying prospect for the American public. The Cold War, a period of simmering tension and ideological conflict, suddenly became an immediate existential threat. The stakes were no longer abstract, they were terrifyingly real. The world held its breath, bracing for the worst. President Kennedy and his advisors, a group known as the XCOM, convened in urgent meetings, debating their options under immense pressure. Every decision carried the weight of the world, knowing that a single miscalculation could trigger a global catastrophe. Some advocated for immediate airstrikes, a swift and decisive response to eliminate the missile threat. Others called for a full-scale invasion of Cuba, a more comprehensive solution to remove Castro's regime and ensure the missiles were neutralized. But Kennedy, acutely aware of the potential consequences, knew he had to consider something else, a path that avoided all-out war. Military leaders, focused on the immediate threat, pushed for attack, urging Kennedy to take decisive action to remove the missiles. But Kennedy understood the risk, the potential for escalation, and the devastating consequences of a direct military confrontation with the Soviet Union. He knew that war with the Soviets could mean nuclear annihilation, a scenario that would leave no winners, only devastation. Instead of immediate military action, he ordered a naval quarantine, a strategic blockade of Cuba to prevent further Soviet shipments of offensive military equipment. It was a calculated gamble, daring the Soviets to cross the line, a test of wills that could have easily spiraled out of control. The world watched with bated breath as Soviet ships approached the quarantine line, each vessel carrying the potential to ignite a global conflict. Both sides were on hair-trigger alert, their fingers hovering over the nuclear button, the world holding its breath. B-52 bombers circled, a constant reminder of the destructive power at the disposal of both superpowers. These strategic aircraft were armed with nuclear weapons, ready to unleash unimaginable devastation at a moment's notice. The fate of humanity rested on the decisions of two men, leaders of the world's most powerful nations. Kennedy, the young and charismatic American president, and Khrushchev, the seasoned and unpredictable Soviet premier. They were separated by distance and distrust, ideological foes locked in a global struggle for supremacy. Khrushchev warned, his words echoing the gravity of the situation. "We and you ought not now to pull on the ends of the rope in which you have tied the knot of war," a stark warning against escalating the conflict. DEFCON 2, the highest level of alert ever reached in the United States. It was one step from war, the precipice of nuclear annihilation. A single misstep, a miscommunication, or a rash decision could have ended civilization as we know it. For 13 days, time seemed to stand still. The world held its breath, gripped by fear and uncertainty, as the superpowers played a dangerous game of brinkmanship. The crisis would eventually end, through a combination of diplomacy, back-channel negotiations, and a healthy dose of luck. But the lesson was clear, etched in the annals of history as a stark reminder of the dangers of nuclear proliferation. Nuclear war could start not with a deliberate act of aggression, but with a misunderstanding, a miscalculation, or a tragic accident. Beneath the Caribbean, the Cuban Missile Crisis took a hidden, perilous turn. The Soviet submarine B-59, armed with a nuclear torpedo, was cornered by U.S. destroyers dropping depth charges. Inside, the crew believed war had begun. Captain Savitsky and his political officer agreed to launch the nuclear torpedo. Only one man stood in the way, Vasily Arkhipov. Under immense pressure, Arkhipov refused to consent. He argued the Americans were signaling, not attacking, and convinced the captain to surface instead of launching. His calm judgment averted disaster. One nuclear torpedo could have triggered all-out war. The world never knew how close it came. Arkhipov's decision was a reminder. Sometimes, a single human choice stands between peace and catastrophe. In a world of protocols and machines, human judgment remains our last safeguard. For decades, Arkhipov's heroism was a secret. His story is a testament to the power and necessity of individual restraint. Nuclear deterrence depends on knowing without doubt if you're under attack. Both superpowers built vast early warning systems, satellites to spot missile launches, ground-based radars to track them, and command centers to interpret the data. The system was designed for speed, minutes to decide, minutes to retaliate, but the technology wasn't perfect. False alarms could be triggered by flocks of geese, the rising moon, or a software glitch. The very systems meant to provide certainty could, under the wrong circumstances, become the source of fatal misunderstanding. In the nuclear age, a phantom signal could start a real war. September 26, 1983. Tensions were high, just weeks after the Soviets shot down a Korean airliner. Lieutenant Colonel Stanislav Petrov was on duty at a Soviet early warning bunker. Suddenly, alarms blared. The system reported a U.S. missile launch, then 4 more. Protocol demanded he report an attack, triggering possible retaliation. But Petrov hesitated. The pattern didn't fit a real first strike. When people start a war, they don't start it with only 5 missiles, he reasoned. Defying orders, he called it a false alarm. He sweated through agonizing minutes, waiting to see if the missiles would arrive. Nothing happened. Petrov's intuition had saved the world from nuclear war. The cause? Sunlight reflecting off clouds, misread by the system. The world was safe, not because of technology, but because one man trusted his judgment. Sometimes survival depends on doubt. The chilling reality of the Cold War wasn't just about geopolitical tensions and military might. It was also about the ever-present potential for catastrophic accidents. The 1983 false alarm serves as a stark reminder of this, a moment when the world teetered on the brink due to a confluence of seemingly innocuous factors. It was caused by sunlight, clouds, seemingly harmless formations in the sky, reflecting sunlight in just the right way to mimic the signature of an incoming missile. This highlights the delicate balance between sophisticated technology and the unpredictable nature of the environment. And a software flaw, a tiny error in lines of code, a hidden bug lurking within the complex algorithms that were supposed to protect us. These weren't acts of aggression, but rather the silent, insidious threats of technological imperfection. It wasn't the only close call. A terrifying pattern emerged throughout the Cold War, revealing just how vulnerable we were to mistakes and malfunctions. Both sides faced numerous false alarms, each one a heart-stopping moment that could have spiraled into unimaginable consequences. The pressure to react swiftly, combined with the potential for error, created a volatile and dangerous environment. Often due to human error, the simple, unavoidable reality that those entrusted with immense power were, after all, only human. Fatigue, stress, and misinterpretation could all lead to potentially catastrophic decisions, or technical glitches. A faulty sensor, a corrupted data stream, a simple short circuit. Any of these could trigger a chain of events leading to nuclear war. In 1979, a NORAD technician accidentally ran a training tape on the live system, a mistake that sounds almost comical in retrospect. But at the time, it sent shockwaves through the defense apparatus, nearly triggering a US response. The world held its breath, unaware of how close it had come to the abyss. These incidents reveal a truth, a deeply unsettling truth about the nature of control and the limits of human capability. Complex systems, no matter how sophisticated, are ultimately run by fallible humans, prone to errors in judgment and susceptible to the pressures of the moment. The pressure on those inside the system was immense, a constant weight of responsibility, knowing that the fate of the world rested in some small part on their shoulders. Protocols demanded certainty, a rigid adherence to procedure, but survival often required doubt, a willingness to question assumptions and challenge the data. Nuclear command systems are a paradox, a delicate balancing act between speed and safety, between automation and human oversight. They must be fast and automatic, capable of responding to a perceived threat in a matter of minutes, yet safe and open to human intervention, allowing for the possibility of de-escalation and preventing accidental war. The drive for speed increases the risk of accidental war. The faster the response time, the less opportunity for verification, and the greater the chance of a false alarm triggering a devastating retaliation. The need for safety can slow a real response, potentially leaving a nation vulnerable to attack if the decision-making process is too cumbersome. For decades, the world has walked this tightrope, teetering on the edge of annihilation, relying on a fragile balance between automation and human judgment, hoping that reason and caution would prevail in the face of unimaginable pressure. The greatest danger isn't always the enemy, the external threat that we prepare to defend against. It's the system itself, the intricate web of technology and human fallibility that could unravel at any moment. Our survival has depended on the right person at the right moment, someone with the courage to question, the wisdom to discern, and the strength to act decisively. Making the right call, a decision that could mean the difference between peace and nuclear winter. Nuclear danger isn't just about war, it's about accidents. In 1980, at a Titan II missile silo in Arkansas, a dropped wrench socket punctured a missile's fuel tank. The missile, armed with a 9-megaton warhead, became a ticking time bomb. Emergency crews raced to prevent disaster as toxic fuel filled the silo. At 3 a.m., the fuel ignited, causing a massive explosion. The warhead was thrown from the silo, but didn't detonate. Its safety features held. One airman died, many were injured, but nuclear catastrophe was narrowly avoided. The Damascus incident proved that even routine mistakes can threaten entire regions. The weapons meant to protect us can endanger us through a simple slip. Sometimes the greatest threat is not the enemy, but ourselves. After the Cuban Missile Crisis, leaders realized they needed a direct way to communicate, fast. In 1963, the US and Soviet Union established the hotline. Not a red phone, but a secure teletype link. Messages could now be sent in minutes, not hours, reducing the risk of misunderstanding. The hotline was for crisis management, not diplomacy, a last resort to prevent war. Its first message was a test. Its real value was in moments of tension. Over time, the system was upgraded. Satellite phones, secure email, chat, the hotline became a symbol. Even bitter enemies must talk when the stakes are survival. Communication, not silence, is the true safeguard in the nuclear age. The Cold War ended, but nuclear danger didn't vanish. It evolved. Treaties reduced arsenals, but new threats emerged, more nations with nuclear weapons, regional rivalries, and cyber warfare. Today, countries like India, Pakistan, and North Korea add new risks. A regional nuclear conflict could trigger global catastrophe, nuclear winter, famine, chaos. Cyber attacks now threaten command systems, raising fears of hacking, false alarms, or unauthorized launches. In response, nations have improved safety, advanced locks, better communication, and risk reduction centers. Yet, as long as nuclear weapons exist, so does the danger. By accident, miscalculation, or intent. The world is safer than at the Cold War's peak, but not safe. The threat has changed, not disappeared. Vigilance and innovation remain essential. The stories of the Cuban Missile Crisis, Stanislav Petrov, and the Damascus accident are urgent lessons. Our survival has depended on technology, judgment, and luck. Individuals like Arkhipov and Petrov made choices that saved the world. Leaders chose restraint over destruction. But luck isn't a strategy. Arms control, diplomacy, and public vigilance are still vital. The ultimate goal, a world free of nuclear weapons. The choices we make now shape the future of peace. 13,000 warheads still exist, a stark reminder of our power to destroy. The fragile peace we enjoy is a choice, not a guarantee. Our future depends on wisdom, cooperation, and the will to choose survival over annihilation.